ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. يا إخواني المسلمين والمسلمات، الحمد لله الذي من علينا بصحة الاعتقاد وطهر قلوبنا من أدران الشرك والوطنية والإلحاد، وأنقذنا من دركة الجاهلية والشر والفساد. أحمده تعالى وأشكره وأتوب إليه وأستغفره جل عن الأنداد، وتنزه عن الصاحبة والأولاد، وتعالى عن مشابهة العباد. My brothers and sisters, all the praises belongs to Allah. And we seek His guidance and His mercy. For whomsoever Allah guides, truly they are guided aright. And whomsoever Allah allows to be misguided, there is no one who can guide them. The introduction, Khutbah al-Hajjah, is very important, and it has history behind this opening and why. This is the introduction to any gathering that the Prophet ﷺ would begin. And so forth, we say in our lives, descriptive, and not only selective, but descriptive comprehensively. The Quran and the Sunnah should be the judge in everything that you do. It should be the ultimate judge in everything you do. We want to be realistic with ourselves. Coming from non-Muslim background, particularly we did not use even the Bible, because many of us wasn't really practicing Christians anyway. We just was that because our parents either whipped us to church, right, or forced us to church, and so we were just going with the script. So we don't come from a background making something the criterion in our lives, except whatever. We'll wake up, whatever. You know, whatever the day brings and whatever I bring to that day. We're used to this kind of pattern. So now we're Muslim though. Remember this. You're Muslim. You and I were on the brink of the fire. I mean, we were actually in the fire. Many of us in our experiences, many of us seen death. Not in the literal sense, but you was put in a situation where you knew that, man, it's all over for you. And so this will give you a greater determination after doing all the wrong we did, all the stick-up and robberies and pushing dope in our communities that we did. A lot of the things we did, we deserved it. Really. It goes with the territory. Right? But guess what Allah did? Because Allah knew that something was in our hearts, even as a kafir. So we would consider the lesser evils, right? Because many of the dudes that we've been running with, they ain't had no conscience. They was just dirty and low. They did whatever, and didn't have a conscience about it. You know those guys who sitting at the dinner table with cold-blooded murderers who act like they're socially interacting as a family man with their suits and ties and their, back then, the Ballys and the Tangos and the silk shirts, sitting like you was normal and you was this upright person, but you just finished tying up a person and putting this body in the green garbage can. Talk about this kind of person who have come into Islam. And Allah saved us when we were enemies to one another. Many of us used to have gang wars. Now we both in Islam, or we all in Islam now. Just think of those times. And Allah says, and you were enemies amongst each other, and Allah put in your heart to love each other now. People used to have shootouts. They'll tell you the stories with each other. They'll say, man, remember I was shooting you the other day? And this only can happen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because if it was left to us, we would have tried to kill each other over and over. But I'm establishing something. Now you're Muslim. Those behaviors and that thinking that we are bringing to the forefront of not Islam, but in our lives as Muslims, because nothing taints Islam, right? Islam cannot decline, as some of these writers have put, the decline of Islam. No, the decline of the Ottoman Empire, or the decline of the Muslims. Islam never declines. It's not like the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, right? They decline. Socialism, capitalism, that declines. But Islam is the deen of Allah, and you need to know this. So when you say his Islam is jammed, don't say that, because Islam is the deen of Allah. You say that he is jammed, right? Meaning he's probably not applying some of the tools of Islam in his life. But the Quran and Sunnah should be your criteria now. No more the underworld codes. No more the handshakes and the satanic symbols that you don't even know that you've been throwing up and still throw them up now. Because you need to study the Satan. You want to study your enemy? Get those books on black magic. You say, why would we do that? I just want to know the good. Well, Hudhayfa, he said, may Allah be pleased with him, the people used to come to the Messenger of Allah and ask about the good only. I wanted to know about the evil so that I won't fall into it. He who does not know the fitna is bound to fall into some of the aspects of jahiliyyah and fitna. So learning your enemy is not all about that you stay away from it. This is our mind. We think it's easy to stay away from something versus being in a situation dealing with it, because a man is not known through the context when there's no controversial, but a man is known in controversy and how he solves it. So we got it wrong. They've been teaching us wrong. Just don't think about the evil. But everybody's been falling into it because nobody teaches it and they don't explain it. So we need to understand Quran and Sunnah now, brothers and sisters. No longer those concepts, your feelings and what you think. For those who have relationships, the marriage relationship, we seem to apply the Islamic criterion outside of our marriages. It's easy to get another brother who comes to the office and sit him down and his wife or someone else, but it becomes very challenging when imams like ourselves have to be the one in the counseling session. You see, it's different. So it's very important, the Quran and Sunnah, argumentation is always going to happen. Who thinks that you can eliminate argumentation? No. Conflict, this word that we think is wrong, conflicts is not already bad. No. Right? It's how you resolve those conflicts, because they are going to exist. It's about what you do in preparing yourself for the conflicts. Right? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, the criterion for everything that we do, you got to ask yourself, when you're in arguments, do you actually think about the Quran and Sunnah? No, you don't. You trying to get the stuff off your chest because you say it. That's how I feel. I'm going to say what I got to say. I'm going to do what I got to do. Right? We use all these terminology. When you're angry at the moment, you're not thinking about no Quran and Sunnah. This takes discipline and training. You can no longer use that I am new in the deen, or brothers is this and brothers is that. That masjid this, that masjid that. You're looking for excuses for yourself. You're a Muslim now, you got to abide. The reason why you don't grow is all because of your own self. So that's why when we talk about conflict resolution, and this verse is conflict resolution. فَإِن تَنَزَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَرَسُولُهُ. And if you differ in anything, refer it back to Allah and His Messenger. Anything. I don't care. Whatever you want to think about. I'll tell you, this verse applies to it. Everything. Everything. And then he goes a little further. Right? He says, In kuntum tu'minuna billahi. If you believe in Allah, wal yawmil akhir, and the last day, right? ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ وَأَحْسَنُ تَأْوِيلًا. If you do believe in Allah on the last day, this will be the best determination. Ta'wil. You know this word ta'wil, you have tafsir, which explains word for word things. Ta'wil gives you the whole concept and idea of something, right? Ta'wil is to go back to the origin. It comes from Fatah, Wow, Lam, Awwal, the beginning. You want to know the original of what it is, which one of the connotations, you want to go back to the original connotation of something. Where did it start? Where did it begin? What am I trying to expose? What am I trying to expound on? So ta'wil is the final determination, right? That will be the best thing to do, referring it back to Allah in all your arguments. We need training, brothers and sisters. A lot of training, because we don't do this. That's why you'll find Muslims in beefs. Street beefs. You came from the street, you still having beefs? How? How does a Muslim be involved in beefs other than the decree of Allah, or if he's putting himself in a situation where people don't respect you as a Muslim because you're saying one, but they treat you the same way that they'll treat you as a disbeliever? Because what? Your behavior has not changed. They be like, yo, I'm going to take Ak out. SubhanAllah. Do you not know in its original form, when the Muslim is doing what he's doing, ain't nobody going to say that. Unless he really ain't thinking correctly. Normally, they're not going to say that. You practicing Islam, you doing what you're supposed to do, ain't nobody going to be talking about they taking out Ak, I'm going to take out Ak. No, they be worried about being taken out. Nah, leave them Muslims alone. Right? I'm trying to show you the behavior still is the same. You just believe in Allah. You got your foot in the door. Right? And the salap's probably beat up a little bit, bruised up. You know, not making them on time. Maybe you be high too. You know, I know you remember making salat when you was high. That means something wrong with your consciousness. I'll tell you a story. When I became Muslim, and I was about a few months, I wanted to believe that marijuana grew on Solomon's grave. I wanted to believe in that. But it was it was called the Acacia tree, something like that. So they're like, that's weed. Yeah, so it's okay, you can smoke weed. So I was looking for reasons to smoke the weed as a Muslim. So I would say, yeah, you know, it grew on Solomon's timber. Ain't nothing described that nowhere in scriptures at all. Just a statement from a philosopher who believed that Solomon grave, it was just a regular, you know, plant, probably just growing out there. So, and there was a special plant though, right? So I smoked weed when I was like 3 months in the deen. I'm gonna tell you how it made me feel. I thought everyone knew that I smoked weed. I was paranoid. It was my conscience though, because I knew it was wrong. My conscience was telling me something, right? And everybody, Muslims, was looking at me, Salaam alaikum, and it looked like everybody's eyes were just watching me, but that was my own conscience doing that. And I went in salat, couldn't concentrate at all. I started crying. And I never did it again, because the way I felt. Your consciousness, you got to listen to it, if it's alive. You can't awaken a person who pretends to be asleep. You're pretending to be asleep by blocking stuff out of your consciousness. You know it ain't right. Because if you don't keep that consciousness, you're going to keep finding reasons to smoke weed. And remember, the abrogation of the ayahs is done with the alcohol. They used to drink before they abolished. The prohibition of alcohol was not in 1920. SubhanAllah. It was 1400 and something years ago in the place of Medina. Prohibition was prohibited. And no more, because the results was that they were forgetting ayats. You know, how you going to memorize verses drunk? Get up in there and you start forgetting the verses. And this is what happened. Then it got into fights where one of the Sahaba, they chipped his nose. You see? And the stages of the abrogation through the process of experience showed that this stuff is not good at all. No matter when you do it or where. Right? process of elimination. The behavior of Islam and the behavior of where you came from. Which one you going to do? You can't have both. Living, thinking, acting, speaking like what you used to speak back in the days. Why you can't get rid of this? You think it's chumping you to be righteous? You think it's chumping your style to look like a Muslim? Now, don't get me wrong, just because somebody got a thobe, he could be the biggest hypocrite in the world. But that's not the point. Evaluation, judgment, right? I want to distinguish myself from the behavior and how I used to think and be. I don't want to be that no more. But don't get it wrong. I still remember everything. I am still that person, but my character changed. The Prophet ﷺ came to perfect good character, not change personalities. Umar kept his personality. He was still ruthless on the field, but he was doing it legally now. And he did it for Islam. If you was that kind of guy back in the days, you keep that. But you know how to manage it now, right? And you don't try to be seen as a tough guy back when we was trying to be tough. Let your lion come out when it needs to. Because really, the Prophet ﷺ said, the strong man is not the one who can wrestle one to the floor. The strong one is one who can control himself when he's angry. This is another place, anger management. A lot of us are quick to say we don't need anger management. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. I used to get angry and hit the walls. I never hit a female, except one time. I was 12 years old. She slapped me in the face. So I felt that I had to slap her back. But that was the only time I did that. I was 12. But I would punch the wall. That's not lessening your anger. Don't get rid of that. If you want to do anything, go punch the bag. You know, and get that anger out. Coping skills. We have to learn those things. They are all in our sunnah. But because of our jahiliyyah residue, conditioning, we still hold on to these things. Right? So that thing we call halun niza'i. Right? Halun niza'i is conflict resolution, and you have three forms. Three types. As-sira'atu dakhiliyatu, which is the inner conflict. Right? As-sira'u bainal ashqasi. Right? That is the interpersonal conflict. Now, interpersonal conflict don't mean you. It's you and someone else. Because a lot of us bring different experiences and ideas and opinions in relationships, rather they're marriage relationship, whatever. So therefore, there's interpersonal clashes because you got a different style. And a lot of times we get in arguments. First, it starts off with mild disagreement, a mild argument, then disagreement, then it gets to conflict, and then it gets to war. We get these 5 evolutionary stages of where we don't conflict resolve things because we're not understanding people's differences, and that's why scholars were scholars back then, because they had these kind of differences, but guess what? They didn't allow it to get into tribal war or fights and killing like they used to back in the past, because they understood that everyone was bringing to the table different experiences and different methodologies of teaching. Everybody can't be the same. Umar bought something, Abu Bakr bought something, right? Uthman, their styles and personalities, like Uthman was the soft. Abu Bakr has his soft ways too. Ali and Umar, you can see similarities within them. Warriors and strong. Umar, even the women was afraid of him because he was real strict. So interpersonal conflicts are not really conflicts until it gets to the 5 stage. Right? And we shouldn't allow it to get to that level. Right? Inner conflicts, or what we call intra-conflicts, because sometimes intra-conflicts is you, man versus yourself. Inner conflicts. And you be thinking the conflict comes outside of yourself. You think everybody is saying something wrong about you in their estimation to how you are. Don't you know the Prophet ﷺ said that the believer is a mirror to the other believer? Look at I give you all the hadiths and backup for every social perspective. All these sociology words, I'm just Islamizing them, right? I can give you any verse for any books they got, or hadiths, to show you Islam brought knowledge to the world. There's no way in the world they can get knowledge without studying Islam. What they did now, they chopped it up today, made it seem like it comes from somewhere else, or their own selves. Inner conflicts. It could be that you don't know how to deal with you. How about that? And guess what? That inner conflict spills over in everyone in your environment. And if you are married, you'll be taking it out on your wife. Right? You can learn from your experiences and talk about it. That's maturity. If it was me that I'm talking about, this is the best time to say it. Why? Maturity. Because you can know your mistakes. Because what is the criteria? The Quran and the Sunnah. And it has to be applied to us too. You know, imams can get so complacent that they always giving advice and can't take it. They run away from it. That means you got to check your ego. Because a person who don't want to take advice, but is critical in his ego's in the way. Being humble, recognizing, rather a woman tell you it or not. So we put gender on it. Most men don't want to hear nothing from a woman. Some of this comes from cultural jahiliyyah, or how this person was raised by his father or someone of that nature, right? So when a woman is going to correct you, you are more resistant than anything because it's a woman. But yet we have many women educators in Islam. We know them. We don't have to go through them, you know. Right? So we have these educators and examples for not only women, but for men too. Right? So what happens is that we put particular things to stop us from seeing the perspective of women. We don't want to be checked by a woman. It's disrespectful according to particular cultures. And also, if a woman was to slap you in front of everybody, you couldn't walk away. Many of us. Why? Because your ego got in the way now. A woman slapped you. And guess what? You got the instigators. Oh, she did it. Oh, she choked you, boy. And then you listen to all that, and you going off. You're going to beat her down. Right? Conflict resolution. I'm telling you, there's a discipline to this thing, because those things could get in the way from you really resolving. So we understood Umar when he was chasing one of the Kafirs back then, right? And he basically, they all died. We need Duracell. You know. So when he came upon the person actually spit in his face, right? One of the Sahabas, Usama bin Zayd, his conflict resolution was a little rusty. You know, he came and the man said, La ilaha illallah. This is Usama bin Zayd, the African beloved one of the messenger. Yeah, everyone know Usama bin Zayd. He was Habashi, he was black. Yeah. And so he killed the man after saying that. La ilaha illallah. And so he got to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, did you kill a man after he said La ilaha illallah? He said he only said that because he feared my spear. And then other narrations, because he knew I was going to kill him, you know. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, oh, Usama bin Zayd, did you cut open his heart to see what you're saying is true? Did you really know in his heart that he said that statement just because you were going to kill him? And Usama bin Zayd said he wished that he was never Muslim until that day. You see, and you learn from, and he's telling the story. See, these are lived experiences. Hadiths are experiences, real lived experiences, that they can get up and say, I was with the messenger one day, and they tell their story. Many of us have stories that if we knew how to organize those stories and make them our greatest tool, the most powerful tool is your stories, your hadiths, right? Put it in a book, or, and remember,